believe at the core it's a gift that women have. We do a really good job of taking care of others. We nurture. And it may come naturally for you to be aware of people's needs, like your spouse, your friends, your family, your kids. But are you aware of your own? My next guest wants you to make room for your needs, allow them to exist, allow yourself to express them, and allow yourself to meet them. Life coach and founder of Life Path Coaching, Sarah Rasmussen, is here to explain. Sarah, it's great to have you. Great to meet you.
Thank you for
So we're going to talk self-care. We hear that phrase a lot, but you do have some different angles and some different perspective on the topic of self-care that I think women will connect with, starting with this idea that you say sometimes we have needs that we don't even realize we have.
Yes, absolutely. So as you mentioned, women are just so gifted at noticing and meeting the needs of the people that they care for.
Yes.
And in pouring so much of ourselves externally, then we often can kind of forget that we have those same needs for care and support ourselves. And I see it a lot in a lot of very basic ways. So I coach these amazing women who are like super successful in certain areas of their lives. And we often find that there are some very foundational basic things that they're not even addressing within themselves. Simple things like nutrition and rest and hydration. And we learn from Maslow's hierarchy of needs that we've got these foundational needs that need to be met before we can start ascending to some of those higher needs. So if you are somebody who has a desire to express yourself creatively, and you're exhausted and stressed out, you're just not going to get there because you need to pay attention to those foundational things.
Those basic building blocks.
Exactly, before you're able to really start thriving. I
had this silly, small aha as a young mom. My kids weren't great at veggies. You know, join the club, welcome to motherhood. And I found myself, you know, hyper fixated that they were getting that green smoothie every morning, right? And all of a sudden I was like, why am I not drinking the green smoothie? I was looking at the levels of their sippy cups, and left over in the blender was, you know, 8 ounces that I was leaving untouched. It's that aha that those foundational, you know, needs that you describe do kind of compound and add to other successes and other joys in our life if we take care of them.
100%.
So I talk tongue-in-cheek these days around self-care just because we hit it so hard for so long. It's almost like the pendulum swung, you know, the last 10 years so far. And we know by now, we're educated that self-care isn't selfish, but what's that line? How do we keep ourselves in check and keep ourselves in a balanced place?
That is a great question because I see it too, and it almost becomes kind of like trite, this whole idea of self-care. But if you think about yourself in relation to every other living thing on the planet, we require care in order to maintain our life. And when we can maintain that, it contributes to the way that we're able to show up in relationship to other people even. So if you are cared for in a way that enables you to live at the highest capacity that you have the ability to, then your relationships look a lot different. You're positioned in a way that you can be present and compassionate and supportive of the people around you. And we get to this point where sometimes we disregard that and we're strung so tight that like any tiny little thing just is like the straw that breaks the camel's back.
It sets us off.
Exactly.
Yeah. So once you've identified your own needs, those foundational building blocks as you described them so well, there's the task of communicating our needs to others. And you have some advice to help us there. First, you say, lay out your needs in a clear and specific way.
Yes. You want to be very clear and specific in your communication so that there's not some misunderstanding that starts to enter into the conversation. Because if that happens, then it's a lot less likely that you're going to be able to get those needs met or work in partnership with the people who you care about and that you want to support one another with in order to make sure those needs get met.
So this might be an obvious question, but give us an example of expressing a clear and specific need. Just something simple like, I need 60 minutes of exercise.
Yeah, that's great. So this week, I had a busy week. I had to express a need to my husband for help with dinner. So it was like, I need help with dinner on Tuesday and Wednesday. My schedule doesn't allow me to do it, and I just mentally didn't have the capacity to even think about it. And so I said, I don't care what it is. Just please help me with that.
Could be Chick-fil-A. In fact, we'll click our heels up. But it's articulating kind of marriage 101, articulating, not assuming that people around us, not just marriage, but anyone around us is going to see those needs and step in to fill the gaps. We can't assume.
Exactly.
You also want us to use I statements. Explain this idea.
Yeah, so basic Communication 101, use I statements, again, so that you are approaching the conversation with clarity. We want to make sure that you're not trying to, or that the other person doesn't misinterpret your communication as a way to blame or accuse them or push the responsibility on them to meet your needs. Rather, I feel, I need, so that they know that they're coming into this conversation in a collaborative way instead of like, oh, now I've got this responsibility on my own shoulders to take care of this person that I don't really have control over, making sure that I'm managing.
So the I statements set up those boundaries in appropriate ways. Our Studio 5 relationship contributor, Dr. Matt Townsend, often encourages and coaches us to let other people express their emotions or their needs, to hear and validate before you jump in with your own requests. And you agree with that. You believe there is a right time and place to express our needs, and maybe it's not immediately after someone else has used their I statement and expressed theirs.
Yeah. Read the room. We want to know, like, what is it that we're entering into before we broach this conversation that might be a little bit sensitive and vulnerable for us. So if you're really amped to have this conversation, but your partner or the person that you want to have the conversation with is like knee deep in a project that might be really stressful, you're probably not going to get the response that you're desiring. So make sure that you set aside time in order to have some quiet space where you can really be seen and heard and communicate effectively. The other thing that's really important is we want them to have some like buy-in to this conversation. So asking permission that they might need to give consent to. Like, are you in a space where we can have this conversation that's kind of near and dear to me and what I'm experiencing right now? You
use the word vulnerability, which is a byproduct of honesty, and you say that has a place in this conversation as well. We need to express our emotions honestly.
Yeah. 100%. If you can be honest about where you're at and what it is that you're needing, then the importance of that is going to be received and communicated to the person that you're talking about. Again, it goes back to like these crossed wires that are easy to take place in these conversations. And so you just want to make sure that you're being honest with yourself first, and then you bring that honesty into your conversation.
And then there's the follow-up. This isn't a one or done. You're going to have this conversation again and again as you reevaluate life needs and life circumstances. In the quick 30 seconds we have left together, how do we make room for our needs? There are realities and realistic demands that everyday life requires of us. How can we realistically carve out the time that we need to build up the healthy spirit that you described?
So I think coming back to those foundational realizations that if you are a human, you have needs. There's nothing wrong or bad about you. You're not weak for having those needs. And then letting that be your motivation in order to, you're going to have to adjust some things. Like, that's just the fact, right? You're going to have to push some things to the side. And if we are coming with that foundational motivation of like, I'm caring for myself so that I can care for other people too, then that definitely helps.
Great advice, sound advice. Sarah, thank you so much. Where can we hear more from you?
You can find me on Instagram at Lightpath Life Coaching, and I've got some freebies that dive a little deeper into this that will help everyone.
Great. You see the website on your screen. We'll link you from our website as well. Great job. It was great to meet you.